Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. The colonial La Republic du Cameroon's government is failing big in its propaganda and happenings in Amazonia and the Amazonian Restoration Forces. Unfortunately, La Republic du Cameroon is unable to balance its declarations with images they present to support their false claims. As it is, La Republic du Cameroon is desperate to celebrate the 20th May Day and would put any lie out to the population to coerce them into doing so. Since the current phase of the Amazonian struggle for self-determination and the restoration of Amazonians' independence erupted in November 2016, Amazonians have massively boycotted the 20 May celebrations in their territory. This day for all Southern Cameroon's Amazonians is a day of infamy. On this date, in 1972, the colonial Republic of French Cameroon, in clear violation of the Federal Constitution of 1961 that brought the Independent Republic of French Cameroon and the Independent Republic of the Southern Cameroon
Our vision in this interim government is to make APC a leader and a real warhorse of our struggle. We want to grow it, expand it, hire and train more hands, and broadcast round the clock, around the world, and take command of the media space of this world.
You can enjoy all round the clock 24/7 exclusive moments of bliss as an ABC Amba TV Club member. A cappella. Latest Nigerian/African movies, global politics, ABC Amba News and updates, historical documentaries, and lots more. In our daily programs, we have Undaunted, ABC Amba News, bringing into the news untold stories with Onyi Okpala and Star Smart. Exclusive discussion, revolutionary panel conversation, infotainment, edutainment, intro governmental debates on topical issues with Tar Paddy King, State of the Liberation Movement, Fronting IG and People of Ambazonia's Position, the Struggles Weekly Update with Secretary Martin Mungwa, PhD, FASC. Health is Wealth, Health Education and Awareness within the Ambazonian Community with Dr. Yaya. Liberation Prayer, an intercessory ministry for Ambazonia with Pastor Victor Amba. Our Freedom, spiritual awareness, and education for the Ambazonian community with Pastor Victor Amba and Pastor Commando. Church and politics, neutralizing the myths and preconceived religious and political philosophies that limit the Christian involvement in the realms of decent politics with Pastor Commando. The Horizon, the voice of the Ambazonian woman with Dr. Patience Abiedo and Lady Casey. Our Amber History, bringing to limelight the hidden history of Ambazonia to the world with Pastor Commando. Appointment on community building, education on patriotism within the Ambazonian communities with Ma Rachel Itatima. Ethics for an Emerging Nation, watchdog of basic principles and morals of a nation at war with Ma Dorothy Ngwa. Upcoming programs: Pigeon News, Vernacular Talk Show, County Roots, Activists Corner, Amba Focus, only on ABC Amba Television. We the people, the voice of the voiceless. For 24/7 access, subscribe as a club member on www.abcambatv.com/subscribe. Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation, the voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa with untold stories, Africa's best.
Oh Lord.
We the people, ABC Amba TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation, the voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa with untold stories, Africa's best. Payment method: www.abcambatv.com/donate. ABC Amba TV payment channels: Cash App 202-650-2216, Zelle 240-486-8768, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. PayPal donations at abcambatv.com. For more details, call +124 028 43 111. You can email us at info@abcambatv.com.
Our vision in this interim government is to make ABC a leader and a real war horse of our struggle. We want to grow it, expand it, hire and train more hands, and broadcast round the clock, around the world, and take command of the media space of this world.
You can enjoy all round the clock 24/7 exclusive moments of bliss as an ABC Amba TV Club member. A cappella. Latest Nigerian / African movies, global politics, ABC Amba News and updates, historical documentaries, and lots more. In our daily programs we have Undaunted, ABC Amba News, bringing into the news untold stories with Onyi Okpala and Star Smart. Exclusive discussion, revolutionary panel conversation, infotainment, edutainment, intro government.
And welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. The colonial La Republic du Cameroon's government is failing big in its propaganda on happenings in Ambazonia and the Ambazonian Restoration Forces. Unfortunately, La Republic du Cameroon is unable to balance its declarations with images they present to support their false claims. As it is, La Republic du Cameroon is desperate to celebrate the 20th May Day and would put any lie out to the population to coerce them into doing so. Since the current phase of the Ambazonian struggle for self-determination and the restoration of Ambazonians' independence erupted in November 2016, Ambazonians have massively boycotted the 20th May celebrations in their territory. This day for all southern Cameroon's Ambazonia is a day of infamy. On this day, in 1972, the colonial Republic of French Cameroon, in clear violation of the Federal Constitution of 1961, that brought the Independent Republic of French Cameroon and the Independent Republic of the Southern Cameroons together through an illegal and fraudulent referendum, dissolved the confederal union of both states and imposed a unitary state in its place, annexing the sovereign peoples of the Southern Cameroons, why it is now considered a day of mourning for Ambazonians. More details coming up in the full briefings after the prime headlines.
Here are the prime headlines for today. Ambazonian fighters deprive 3 La Republic du Cameroon soldiers of our National Day celebration. Well, as well this night, fake 20th May celebration noticed. This night, La Republic du Cameroon denies its workers' salaries. On Undaunted this night, La Republic du Cameroon lies about 16 Ambazonian fighters and 2 generals being surrendered. In today's news, La Republic's inability to handle their Ambazonian War of Independence will be told. Fire for fire, the ARFs have neutralized 3 colonial La Republic du Cameroon forces in Kumba local government area, and in Spurs, Brentfield strike is suspended for 8 months over betting. Now let's get the news in detail.
Debates on topical issues with
Our vision in this interim government is to make APC a leader and a real war horse of our struggle. We want to grow it, expand it, hire and train more hands, and broadcast round the clock, around the world, and take command of the media space of this world.
you can enjoy all round the clock 24/7 exclusive moments of bliss as an ABC Amba TV Club member. A cappella. Latest Nigerian/African movies, global politics, ABC Amba News and updates, historical documentaries, and lots more. In our daily programs, we have Undaunted, ABC Amba News, bringing into the news untold stories with Onyi Okpala and Star Smart. Exclusive discussion, revolutionary panel conversation, infotainment, edutainment, inter/intro governmental debates on topical issues with Tar Paddy King, State of the Liberation Movement, Fronting IG, and People of Ambazonia's Position. The Struggles Weekly Update with Secretary Martin Mungwa, PhD, FASC. Health is Wealth, Health Education and Awareness within the Ambazonian Community with Dr. Yaya. Liberation Prayer, an intercessory ministry for Ambazonia with Pastor Victor Amba. Our Freedom, Spiritual Awareness and Education for the Ambazonian Community with Pastor Victor Amba and Pastor Commando. Church and Politics, neutralizing the myths and preconceived religious and political philosophies that limit the Christian involvement in the realms of decent politics with Pastor Commando. The Horizon, the voice of the Ambazonian woman with Dr. Patience Abiedo and Lady Casey. Our Amber History, bringing to limelight the hidden history of Ambazonia to the world with Pastor Commando. Appointment on community building, education on patriotism within the Ambazonian communities with Ma Rachel Itatima. Ethics for an Emerging Nation, watchdog of basic principles and morals of a nation at war with Ma Dorothy Ngwa. Upcoming programs: Pigeon News, Vernacular Talk Show, County Roots, Activists Corner, Amba Focus, only on ABC Amba Television. We the people, the voice of the voiceless. For 24/7 access, subscribe as a club member on www.abcambatv.com/subscribe. Payment method: www.abcambatv.com/donate. ABC Amba TV payment channels: Cash App 202-650-2216, Zelle 240-486-8768, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. PayPal donations at abcambatv.com. For more details, call +124 028 43 111. You can email us at info@abcambatv.com. Payment method: www.abcambatv.com/donate. ABC Amba TV payment channels: Cash App 202-650-2216, Zelle 240-486-8768, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. PayPal donations at abcambatv.com. For more details, call +124 028 43 111. You can email us at info@abcambatv.com. Payment method: www.abcambatv.com/donate. ABC Amba TV payment channels: Cash App 202-650-2216, Zelle 240-486-8768, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. PayPal donations at abcambatv.com. For more details, call +124 028 43.
Fellow Ambazonians, Mpapa them and Mami them, Pikin them, especially our ARF for all the 13 counties, as Salobona, as Salobona, una can fairly day up. May I tell you something? If you curse me, I will sit down quiet. But if you curse Ambazonia, I will answer you. If you lie about me, I will sit down quiet. But if you lie about Ambazonia, I will answer you. And if you blow lie on Ambazonia people to make them believe you for your lie, me, when I go hear my voice, I want to tell una say, may I throw in this pineapple, say, no be na every injection in the cure sick. Because if you not get epilepsy, I want to you epilepsy injection. You go be a foolish man for take that injection. Because if he kill you, if he give you sick, if he destroy you instead. Not be every injection it be solution. Man is sick, some man just come say, I don't bring injection. They just open and say, go chuka. No, they go ask you, say, now what is that? Now every injection, they cure man, every man. You know what way they inside, they get for correspond for what way you need that. No, now every injection, they cure. Some people, they take injection because they want die. May we take time for these people, the way they don't fail for diaspora. And they come for granted ground, they make stupid video them, audio them, they blow lie. Me I tell on a lie number one. No one country where they call themselves the international community, they never propose any solution to this problem more than say make La Republic meet up with for table negotiate. That the only solution that way international community if you don't propose it, and La Republic they deny. Make someone not tell you say na international community one propose we referendum, then this man they deny, that one they deny because my name na 4 letters. Sako they deny. Make nobody not tell on that lie. Nobody, no one person under this sun, he never propose we referendum. Nobody. So this drunk with people they don't drunk with referendum. I don't know who be tap that member with a drinker. No man never propose we referendum. Nobody. If some man they don't propose we referendum, may them tell we. Nobody. To the best of my knowledge and all who na Ambazonia. If some man they we want tell you something, ask he say now who don't propose about we. Number two, where I want to tell now say this thing where they talk say referendum. May I tell you now the truth. Wait this interim government stand for. Now say we will not need the referendum because the reason why they give referendum for any people now when that people them they fight for independence, they want get independent, then the country figure them referendum to make them vote so that if the people them for yes they win, then now they go carve that part of that country, it will become another country. So referendum they give now for people the way they no get country, but they want get country. Man we don't already get country. If you get power, another country get power like the Republic, it can pull we all like Ninga, and we don't decide say we don't take back our independence we don't first get them. You not get forgive we referendum when at the referendum go decide whether we be independent because we already be independent. These people the way they propose referendum for themselves because no man never propose them for. May I tell you the real secret where they go inside. They don't surrender. They don't stop the fight. We would the fight because we don't restore we are independent. We don't take back we independent. We be get them for 1960. We don't give ourselves the name Federal Republic of Ambazonia. We get our own country, the Southern Cameroons. We get our own government and we get our own flag and we get our own anthem. These people the way they ask for the referendum now, they don't deny that truth. They don't deny that fact. They talk say they don't agree now with La Republic say they be southwest and northwest regions of Cameroon. Where it be say they never ever be independent. If they don't be independent, the councillor. If they don't be a separate country, the councillor. They don't get their own flag. They don't get their own country again. They be part of La Republic. But make La Republic a United Nations can give them referendum so that now that referendum vote now it go determine whether they go be independent or will not go be independent. Whether we go be independent or not go be independent. Now we are story that for Ambazonia, nobody will be don't first be independent. Now which kind one now where they say may we just forget about everything. Make La Republic and United Nations give we referendum. Now that referendum will determine whether we go be Ambazonia or not, whether we go be Southern Cameroon or not, whether we go get independent or not. It not make sense. We for this interim government we don't talk say if anybody if he say we get for count if they want make some kind of vote, we don't need vote way now it go determine whether we go be independent or not. Because that vote way go determine whether some people them where they not be independent but they want be independent. That vote they call and say referendum. No, that kind of vote we need that because we don't already be independent. The kind of vote where the fifth vote now the one way you know they give man independent. If United Nations want consult we or say for no wait way we did talk wait we want time. We feel agree that kind of vote because we don't want vote where go cancel, you go can't cancel our independent because we don't already get independent. We don't want vote where before one vote we get for sign book say we not be independent. We agree with La Republic say we be one country before they go give with that kind of vote. That one an injection where you know the cure man, it kill him. That's all. They tell we today say international community when we deny
the people. ABC Amba TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa.
All right, you're welcome back. Now, going back to some of the utterances of some members of the BS colonial government on the ongoing war in southern Ambazonia, one can only give more reasons justifying how dishonest they are. Many have often come with words like Amazonian fighters have been crushed, and what is left is just some pockets of resistance. But the reality on the ground is the contrary. On the contrary, it is now that the Amazonian fighters are having the best weapons to challenge any penetrating attempt of the occupational forces of La République du Cameroon. Yes, we said it, best weapons. And this is thanks to the interim government led by Dr. Samuel Ikomesako, who ensured that the best weapons are gotten, which is a fruit from your draft. Now, this is where we will begin the full briefings of UNDAUNTED tonight. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, very well, Onyi. Good evening, Ambazonians. Colonial La République du Cameroon administrators only circulate in Ambazonia only under tight security. Even with the tight colonial military presence in and around Ambazonia, they still sneak around in armored cars, all this because they dread the strategies and prowess of the Ambazonian Restoration Forces. On May 16, 2023, La République du Cameroon colonial military trucks fell into a trap of the Ambazonian fighters, with the results being 3 La République du Cameroon elite forces, the BIR sent the truck damage and a good number of war fatigue harvested by the Ambazonian fighters. Now the question is, who are those dishonest peers ministers deceiving young recruits of the aging leader? Who are they?
La République du Cameroon has suffered a humiliating blow a few days to their National Day celebration from the hands of the Ambazonian fighters of Meme County. The incident that happened on Tuesday, May 16, 2023, well, you could say that this is as colonial armies came in to organize their so-called 20th May celebration, which is a day Ambazonia considers as a national day of mourning. Meanwhile, this is just a gentle reminder that a lockdown has been instituted from the 19th to 22nd of April in this regard. And so this incident left 3 elements of the colonial La République du Cameroon allied forces dead, a colonial military truck damaged, and the Ambazonian fighters backing home with guns and other military gadgets as trophies.
Well, La République du Cameroon truck belonging to the colonial elite forces, the Rapid Intervention Battalion, and with the French acronym BIR, on an illegal patrol in Ambazonia, precisely in a locality called Mabongi in Meme County. A video celebrating the victory over the occupational forces of La République du Cameroon, the Ambazonian fighters displayed all that they collected from La République du Cameroon forces from the mission. Now, this attack takes place on the same day that the colonial La République du Cameroon soldiers were involved in match rehearsals for the upcoming banned La République du Cameroon May 20th National Day celebrations.
All right, and moving on, La République du Cameroon's project is May 20th celebration ahead of the celebration itself. Now, the colonial La République du Cameroon administration and thugs are desperate to celebrate the 20th May celebration. Now, they know that on the 20th of May, the Ambazonian forces will be very alert, and so they have decided to celebrate ahead of time. Now, this will mean that the event will be a sabotage of their own initiative. So it seems like they want to have the celebration ahead of time, before time. So even at the closet, if they even like, they can even do it at night. Now, all they want to achieve is just to take pictures and set it as a propaganda that the event actually held.
La République is aware that to continue selling the agenda that they have control over Southern Cameroons, they don't want to accept a negotiation table. And here now is for them to fake things like the celebration. Pictures of how they are pretentiously celebrating 20th May, 3rd May to 3 days to 20th as a march, and they are even forcing students to take pictures. We wonder to what end and why all of this.
All right, moving on. Reports reaching ABC Amber TV confirms tension mountain between Colonial La Republic du Cameroon forces and Colonial La Republic du Cameroon authorities, as Colonial La Republic du Cameroon security accuses Yaoundé authorities of delaying their integration salaries and arrears. The report says some Colonial La Republic du Cameroon security forces working in the war-torn Ambazonia have been accusing colonial authorities for delaying their salary advancement and other benefits for years now. Well, ABC Amber TV reliable sources confirms that these Colonial La Republic du Cameroon forces working in the police ever since they graduated from the police training college about 4 years ago have never received their integration salary, advancement, and other salary arrears has never been paid, although they continue risking their lives fighting their Ambazonia restoration forces.
Well, our sources also revealed that authorities of the Colonial La Republic du Cameroon Police Corps, in particular, have refused to listen to their complaints but keep on sending them to fight the valiant ARFs in exchange for meager salaries. They don't even think that we have families, how we feed them and pay bills. All they want is that we should keep fighting so that they should be enjoying in their comfortable offices. Since we left school in 2019, we have not received this money. All that we are dwelling on is the monthly salary, which is too small. A disappointed Colony La Republic security officer was complaining and lamenting with his words. He also added that some of their colleagues had been paid a bribe and have received their integration salaries. Meanwhile, the majority of them are still waiting. The source further explained that the manager of a bank where they received salaries told them that only top officials in the corrupt La Republic, security or government can give them the go-ahead.
Well, he reluctantly said there is nothing they can do at the level of the banks to salvage their situation, since most of these helpless La Republic du Cameroon security forces, in order to make ends meet, have taken overdraft more than required. Well, Undaunted noted here without fear of favor that this is, however, not the first time that the Colonial La Republic du Cameroon security officers working in the war-ravaged Amazonia are accusing the Yaoundé colonial authorities for mismanagement, malpractices, and even corruption. Earlier this year, some of them released their voice messages on social media decrying how they were abandoned in a war area and authorities were demanding bribe before they could be relieved. All right, before we go on with the news tonight, the news director, Mr. Tapati King, is on the other side waiting to air his thoughts. We give a report about the fake 20th May celebration that has already begun 3 days to the set date. We'd like to get his thoughts on this issue. Mr. Tar.
Yeah, Onya, good evening. So, which of the reports would you want me to comment on?
Already organized May 20th celebration.
Your volume is low. Can that be worked up on? Your volume is too low. I can hear you. Your volume is too low. Can that be rectified now?
All right. Confirm that you can hear me loud and clear, please.
Yeah, that's okay now.
All right. So we gave the news right about now about the already organized 20th May celebration that has taken place even before the 20th of May. I'm sure you want to air your thoughts on that.
Yes, that's one of the reasons I decided to join your broadcast this evening. It's quite concerning, and for two reasons, the interim government would like me to comment on it. Our people should see from Cameroon's attitude that they are vicious. The question is, if it is about a national day, as they would call it, they call it in French, uh, national something, it's a national day for a day for a nation to celebrate. If it is genuine, it means it should be a celebration where the people are joyfully doing so. But if you would have to put pupils and students from their houses at night, at gunpoint, you oblige them, and you are celebrating ahead of time, not before the day. The objective is really unclear, but there is some good news around it. It only indicates that the Ambazonian Restoration Forces have proven that they can interrupt whatever is happening, and it is also possible for Cameroon not to control or carry on activities like they would want to. If Cameroon is doing this, it indicates also the importance of propaganda. Propaganda is very important. Cameroon knows this. So what do they want to do? They want to show to the international community that, okay, at the end of the day, we have some control. We are still controlling the place. We are still able to organize fête nationale, as they call it in their French language. Fête nationale in essence has no meaning. Every country in the world, Nigeria celebrates Independence Day. The United States of America celebrates Independence Day. India, China, Ghana, most of the countries that I know of and that I visited, even France celebrates Independence Day. But Cameroon, strangely, in fact, Cameroon has a strange celebration, and they call it Fête Nationale, means the national day. They have tried to give meaning to that day. It has no value. It has no meaning. They have tried a couple of times to give a lot of meanings, to let people understand why the day should exist and so on and so forth. But you would agree with me that the day in essence is a fraud. Why are they obliged? Why is Cameroon so desperate to have this day happen? Because Cameroon is not willing to talk with Ambazonians. Cameroon is not willing for a peaceful negotiation. Cameroon wants to defeat. And the new strategy they are using right now to defeat the war is to use enablers within our means. They understand that with a gun on the ground, they will be unable to defeat us. So using enablers and perhaps using people of color or whites to come and tell us, okay, a referendum. Like the president has explained, for us to opt for a referendum would mean that we will deny that we are an independent people. We will deny that we have restored our independence. We will agree that we have become one with La République de Cameroon, and that in itself defies logic. It cancels our argument. They want us to present ourselves as people who have no legitimacy or any historical bearing that can justify our cause as a people. So 20th May is that one day that the interim government is unwaveringly making sure that there will be no celebration. There will be no celebration in any part of Amazonia. And we are advising Amazonians at the home front, do not make yourself a military target. What do I mean? You can just be a victim of crossfire. The Ambazonian Restoration Forces will definitely be crossfiring with La République du Cameroon. You don't want to be you don't want to be caught in between. So the lockdown begins tomorrow, and you're called to stay home. Now, the question you wanted me to talk about, which I think I'll go progressively until you ask me to respond to the next, is the aspect of the 20th May. The 20th May is not supposed to be a celebration. It's supposed to be a mourning. It has no meaning. It has no value. In fact, it is a waste of time. You have just shown the images of how Cameroon, 3 days to time, is just trying to have a semblance. It's a fraud. The very act of you trying to take videos and pictures days before time defies the purpose of what you call Fête Nationale. Fête Nationale means a festivity for the nation, a time for celebration. But this time it's not celebration, it's manipulation, it's intimidation. Nothing that has to do with celebration. The people would have to feel a sense of patriotism to get out unwaveringly and celebrate. I remember when we were in school during this time, we were ignorantly knowing that we're celebrating a so-called fete national, a national day. And we dress. I remember if you don't have a white canvas, your uniform is not straight, you are not happy. And your parents, if they were giving you 100 francs CFA to go to school, they may give you 500 francs because it's a day you're not just going to buy ice cream. You may want to buy cake. You may want to go to some party with friends. It was a general celebration, and that was done under the pretext of betrayal. We were denied to be taught our own history. Cameroon calculatively withdrew from us the truth about our history, and we thought that that was a day for us to celebrate. So it's a fraud, and we're advising everybody not to participate in this fraud. Can you hear me?
Mr. Tao, we'll definitely come back to you with more questions. Let's briefly get into more reports. Just hold on for us in a jiffy.
Well, now moving on to another report from the home front. The colonial La République du Cameroon government, failing big in its propaganda on happenings in Ambazonia and the Amazonian Restoration Forces, have unfortunately been unable to balance their declaration with support and images as they present false claims. The colonial La République du Cameroon military and administrative authorities have alleged that a total of 18 Amazonian fighters have surrendered to the colonial La République du Cameroon government to the concentration camps called DDR. Of the 18 of them, there are 2 generals and 16 fighters as they claim.
Oui, allô? Allô? Qui m'a appelé? Oui, allô? Allô? Oui, allô? Oui. Wait, man, go for your house.
All right, now looking at the images circulating, just to justify that claim by La Republic du Cameroon, as you saw in the video, only 6 boys are being paraded. Now, concerning the weapons surrendered, these are 2 then guns, 1 old AK-47 and a rifle that you saw in the video. Now, they are implying that at this age, the Amazonian fighters are sophisticatedly using those old equipment. 18 fighters have just 4 Porsche-shaped guns. This scenario just vividly exposes the colonial La République du Cameroon's propaganda. Now, let's look at it critically. Had it been true that the colonial La République du Cameroon's government, from experience, would have flooded the media with all the 18 fighters, and also 18 Amazonian fighters cannot be using just 4 guns. Well, it is evident that the colonial La République du Cameroon's government is not telling any truth here. Because why display only 6 of the supposed 18 surrendered Amazonian fighters?
Well, the Republic of Cameroon's government is misleading some media organs on a supposed surrender of 18 Amazonian fighters in Mundemba, local government area of the Atlantic zone of Amazonia. By the false report concocted by the colonial government, 16 Amazonian fighters with 2 generals have abandoned their fight for independence by surrendering their weapons and themselves to the colonial La Republique du Cameroon military officials.
In an accompanying image to support their claim, the Colonial La Republic of Cameroon military officers presented 6 boys and just 4 guns, 2 of which are Den guns, an old AK-47 and a rifle. Pundits who mastered the Colonial La Republic of Cameroon modus operandi discredits the claims, saying that La Republic of Cameroon can have 18 ex-fighters and present just 6 to the public, a situation they want to have the opportunity to blow out of proportion.
While others categorically say it is a false claim on the part of La Republique du Cameroon, they question that it is not real, that 18 Amazonian fighters have been using 4 guns, and worst of all, among the 4 guns, there are 2 Den guns. Crazy enough, this lies coming from a zone that yesterday, May 16th, on 2023, used an improvised explosive device to shatter a trust belonging to the colonial La Republique du Cameroon's most elite force, the BIR, killing 3 elements and investing 3 sophisticated gun ammunitions.
All right, before we move on, Mr. Tara is still here, and I'm sure that he will want to contribute to this particular topic. I mean, how is that possible? You said 18 and you're parading 6, and then the rifles there. It doesn't balance up. Let's say your thoughts, Mr. Tara.
Yeah, like I said, Cameroon is desperate, and their desperation cannot even hide. They would rather use any method in their disposal to it's a psychological look. This way I want us to get it. This is psychological warfare. It's a mind game, and that's why it is our duty to continuously educate the people on the gimmick. Why do I say so? We have thousands of Amazonian restoration forces, Indian, and let's accept that it is true 18. What is 18 out of 1,000? Just within the past 48 hours, more than 30 La Republique du Cameroon fighters have been killed across Amazonia. Reports are having it. I think I just shared it with you guys in the newsroom. I would have loved you to ask the question in that. The city of Tombe paralyzed by fighting between the French army and the Amazonian Restoration Forces. The Soso Tombe road have been blocked by so the roads. There are many different roads outlets, and I guess this reporter was trying to indicate that the roads have been blocked by the Amazonian Restoration Forces. There's also a report that we're getting from Lebialem. All the forces are waking up. The forces are unwavering. So you take 3 hungry guys who most probably have been corrupted by Marianta, because Ndian is where Marianta is coming from, and you want to claim that Amazonian fighters are defecting. And that's what their media is parading. We saw that in the Guardian Post. It's very disgraceful that the Guardian Post would have to be reporting such a mean thing that is not verified. Genuine Amazonian fighters that have been exploding vehicles, the war tankers in Gokitunja, in Boy County, in Mezam, in Manu, in Tombel, in Boya. Just the other day, we saw the way all across Amazonia there is fire. There is a revival in the camps of the Amazonian Restoration Forces. And so Cameroon, like I said earlier on, is losing the war, and they know it. They really know that they are losing. So they're just looking for a way to maybe console themselves. They're playing some kind of a delay tactics. They are deceiving the international community. I wouldn't even say they are deceiving the international community. They are trying to play a card that they have been advised by their lobbies, by France, to do so. Because what is the strategy? Cameroon knows they will not win this war. if the United States of America won the war in Afghanistan, then that's the best army in the world, then an army like Cameroon will probably win in Amazonia. But if the US army left Afghanistan without winning the war, Cameroon knows that it's just a matter of time. They will not win the war. There is economic sabotage, and the Amazonian Restoration Forces are effective in it. Cameroon's economy is dying down. The economy in the entire Gulf of Guinea will be affected. So what do they want to do? To keep on borrowing money from China, perhaps hoping that their public will not turn against them. They want to give hope for those who have chosen to be vulnerable. And this is unfortunately, but we understand it. And we now will need to come up all the time to debunk. You have reported just between Tuesday and now, a couple of their fighters are falling and many will fall. And we are saying that before 1st October this year, Cameroon would have lost at least, if it is too small, at least 1,000 of their soldiers if they don't back out just from one county. I'm not talking about all the counties, because if weekly you have close to 100 of Cameroon army being neutralized, think about what happens in a month, what happens in 2 or 3 months. A lot of things are happening. The fighters sometimes are focusing on just hitting the Amazonian Restoration Forces down, so they cannot even get the videos. Unlike Cameroon that goes there with sophisticated cameras, but sometimes sophisticated weapons, the weaponry from our side, I'm talking about the Amazonian Restoration Forces, is getting mechanized. It's evolving. It's getting to a point that Cameroon will be unable to sustain it. A few days ago, we started with 10 guns. The Amazonian Restoration Forces do not use 10 guns no more. Maybe they have just picked up some farmers there and they are purporting them as Amazonian Restoration Forces. Amazonian Restoration Forces are using real rifles. Where they don't have it, they can produce for themselves IEDs. And this is not me talking. We have seen them. I just wish you would have a trailer to show the demonstration of how these fighters are bombing the military vehicles coming in from Yaoundé.
All right, and Mr. Talbot, let's take a closer look at the.
Your volume is low, please.
All right, Mr. Todd, let's take a closer look at the home front. Um, uh, from the home front, how prepared are they to respond to the instructions from the interim government? It's at home from tomorrow.
There's something you must understand. Our people are resolute. If you noticed, you reported on Tuesday how the people have already started going when the town had resumed, life had resumed in the towns, and the people were there busy buying and stocking their homes with food items and many things. A lot is happening at the home front as we speak. The markets all across the national territory of today, the markets were flooded because people were stocking their homes with food. They know that from tomorrow it will be a bad idea for any of them to go out. And it's not in any attempt, just so you know, it's not in any attempt to suffer the people. No, the interim government has intelligence, and we have seen it already, Cameroon manifesting. The interim government has intelligence that Cameroon forces will be planting some of their arsenals at different points starting tomorrow. They already started. But just so we have enough time to prepare and to protect the people, it's advisable that at least a day before 20th May, the Amazonian Restoration Forces wouldn't want to see you out there, so that they can also strategize to counter whatever Cameroon is planning on the ground. I can tell you confidently that the people are willing to boycott this fake day, and they are willing to stay home tomorrow. And we said it the other day, there's even no reason for them to claim about businesses. The businesses are not working. You know, we want to get sovereignty of our country so we can establish real trade, not with Douala and Cameroon that is producing nothing and they're buying to sell from us. No, want to do real business with Nigeria that's close by. Nigeria is highly industrialized. Nigeria is not only highly industrialized in most of production in Africa. Nigeria happens to be one of the most industrialized country in Africa, and that's a great market. Between Ambazonia and Nigeria is a walk. The closest town, which is Ikom and Ekok, is just about 15 minutes drive. Now, getting into Bamenda, which could be the economic hub of Southern Cameroons, it's a business. When the Enugu Highway, that you want to call the Bamenda Ekok Nigeria Highway, when it was just built by the World Bank, businesses boomed up. Youths in Bamenda started new businesses. This is what Cameroon doesn't want. They are jealous of the fact that without them, Ambazonia has a better opportunity and market with a bigger nation like Nigeria. And Ambazonia is not a landlocked country. Ambazonia has a high sea. In fact, the port in Douala cannot be compared to what is in Limbe. So we can self-sustain. In fact, we are not only self-sustaining ourselves. 60% of everything that makes the economy of the two Cameroons put together comes from Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. So they would rather kill us to own what belongs to us. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Chaff, for being here tonight. All right, so we'll go ahead and continue with the news. All right, since 2017, Cameroon has been engulfed in a bloody civil war that has claimed more than 40,000 lives, forced more than 1 million people to flee their homes, and left nearly 4 million people dependent on humanitarian assistance. Diplomatic efforts to resolve the conflict have been cosmetic and have repeatedly failed. Most recently, in January, a Canada backed initiative was aborted before it even got off the ground. After La Republic de Cameroon had earlier backed out of the internationally agreed upon Swiss led mediation process. The conflict has its origins in the protests that began in 2016 over language based grievances in the majority francophone country, that's La Republique du Cameroon, led by lawyers, students, and teachers, and demonstrations sought to block a new measure that imposed the French-speaking teachers and judges in Anglophone schools and courts. Now, while also calling attention to the broader marginalization of the southern Cameroon's population, which constitutes roughly 20% of the country's inhabitants.
Well, after authorities brutally repressed the peaceful protests, a previously existing separatist movement radicalized and began to launch attacks against government forces. And the next year, in October 2017, Southern Cameroonians declared the creation of a independent Federal Republic of Ambazonia, with the Ambazonia Governing Council as its head at the time. The following month, the Cameroonian government declared war on the peoples of Southern Cameroon and deployed soldiers to the Amazonian regions to crush them. Since then, the violence has escalated into a full-blown civil war that has raged on despite cosmetic domestic and international efforts to broker peace.
In 2019, peace talks mediated by Switzerland, followed by a week-long national dialogue initiated by the colonial CPDM Yaoundé government, failed to halt the war. The following year, another dialogue involving several jailed members of the separatist movements collapsed. This time, due to divisions in the La Republique du Cameroon's government, as well as among the Southern Cameroonians. That was the Kondengi prison and its La République du Cameroon's government. Now, the Canada facilitated dialogue between the La République du Cameroon government and the Southern Cameroonians, announced by Canadian Foreign Minister Melanie Joly in January, to reach a comprehensive, peaceful, and political resolution of the conflict.
But 3 days after Joly's announcement, a Cameroonian government spokesperson shut down the proposal, saying that Yaoundé did not entrust any country with the role of mediating the crisis. But while Yaoundé took the blame for scuttling the most recent initiative, some observers have chalked up the abortive dialogue to internal disagreements amongst the Anglophone leaders. In an exclusive interview with World Politics Review, Capo Daniel, a blackleg and former spokesperson of the Ambazonian Governing Council, which represented the separatists in preliminary discussions, said that internal politics within the organization's hierarchy is as much to blame as Yaoundé's intransigence for the failure of the Canada-initiated peace talks.
Well, the historical origins of the Ambazonian War dates back to the end of World War I, when German Cameroon, as a colonial territory was then known, was divided into two leagues of nations-mandated territories. Well, Britain took over roughly one-fifth of the territory along the borders of neighboring Nigeria, while France assumed control of the remainder when La République du Cameroon won its independence in January 1960. The UN organized a plebiscite the following year to determine the fate of the British Cameroons. But that referendum offered voters only two options. One, to make
Cameroon, La République du Cameroon voted for a union with Nigeria, where its former territory now makes up parts of Adamawa, Taraba, and Borno states. Southern Cameroons opted for union with La République du Cameroon. To this day, many Southern Cameroons consider the 1961 plebiscite to be an injustice. According to Dr. Samuel Ikomisako, the president of the Federal Republic of Amazonia that's seeking for recognition, he says that referendum presented Southern Cameroons with two bad options instead of the self-government that many desired. In the years after unification with La République du Cameroon, a federal system was established to administer the country and preserve a sense of autonomy in the Anglophone regions. In that system, both English and French were established as the country's official languages.
But beginning in 1972, then President Amadou Ahidjo introduced a process to centralize authority, which ultimately abolished the Cameroon's federal system, further concentrated powers in the hands of the president, and effectively imposed the francophone character on the Cameroonian state. The Southern Cameroon Civil War has now masterminded turning most parts of the Anglophone region into a battlefield between the Ambazonian Restoration Forces and, of course, the La République du Cameroon government forces. It was against this backdrop of distrust and disillusionment that the 2016 demonstration and civil disobedience erupted, triggered by policies that were seen as attempts to further erode their Anglophone regions, the language status, and exacerbated by Yaoundé's brutal response to the peaceful protests.
Well, in 2023, this year, there has been over 30 attacks on the Amazonian Restoration Forces and the Colonial La Republic Security Forces since January, with the violence taking place in rural communities like Bali, Bache, Bambui, Oku, Kumbo, and Jakiri local government areas near the Nigerian border, but also in cities like Bamenda and Boya, local government areas where persons died in one of the confrontations on April 10th. In addition, more than 700,000 children have had their education disrupted due to regular attacks by belligerent parties to the conflict.
While the United Nations estimates that 2 out of every 3 schools in Ambazonia have closed indefinitely. This is aside from the grave human rights abuses, including mass killings, rape, torture, assaults and kidnappings of civilians committed by the Occupational Republic, the Cameroon Genocidal and Barbaric Forces, according to Human Rights Watch.
Let's take a look at the Amazonian Restoration Forces fire on the home front. The ARS placed their local improvised explosive device to relay and kill the occupied La Republic du Cameroon military men. UNDAUNTED just got the information that at least 3 officers of the Colonial Genocida La Republic's Rapid Intervention Battalion, an elite unit of La Republic's Defense and Security Forces, have died.
Well, this happened following an ambush laid against them in Mabonji on the outskirts of Kumba local government area in the Mimi County. They were attacked on May 16, 2023 with the use of a local improvised explosive device. In a viral video, the fighters showed 3 rifles, 2 helmets, and a bulletproof vest with bees insignia on them, which they harvested during the attack. Let's go to the African report. Africa's involvement in ending the war in Ukraine is what we will be looking at today.
Now, taking a look at Africa's involvement when it comes to the war in Ukraine, Uganda's foreign minister has held a top-level meeting with Russia's Sergei Lavrov over the Ukraine Black Sea grain deal. Meeting in Moscow Thursday, JJ Odongo told a joint news conference that he had urged parties involved to consider the plight of many African countries who depend on grain for wheat and bread.
Well, Odongo said at the news conference that quite a number of African countries, particularly in the northern part of Africa, depend on grain, particularly for wheat and bread. We understand their plight, but we think whatever should be done in the interest of those in need and not to use their need to the advantage of others.
Sergei Lavrov, however, said the next 2 months would help decide the fate of a deal which allows Ukraine to ship grain through the Black Sea. And Lavrov said they would like to understand what specific initiatives South Africa's President Ramaphosa and his African colleagues, including Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni, would like to come up with in order to discuss with them, as they are open, as said many times, to any serious and engaged proposals from any state.
Well, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan on Wednesday said Moscow had agreed to extend the agreement for 2 months. Russia had set a Thursday deadline for its concerns to be ironed out or had threatened to bow out, but neither Moscow or Erdogan immediately commented on any consensus the Russians may have received. Lavrov also commented on an initiative by South Africa's president to broker peace, saying Russia was open to serious and engaged proposals.
Well, it's first of all very exciting to have the world at large and African presidents, particularly, go all out bringing in measures to end the war going on in Ukraine. But what's ironic is how they almost never talk about wars right under their nose, with more casualties and death rate. A good example of such under-mentioned wars should be obvious to you by now.
Ukraine has fought the war with a mixture of mission command at junior levels and at times Soviet-style centralized command at the top, and it has placed a strong emphasis on artillery and attrition over maneuvering warfare. In contrast, the Western style is fighting with smaller troops but quality weapons with precision and intelligence for long-range strikes. The Russian and Ukrainian war is looking like a never-ending war. Will the war sit and watch like they have done to the Ambazonians?
Well, the UK-led Europe leads the US. British-trained soldiers trounced Russian military in Ukraine. UK-led Europe leads the US with Operation Interflex. As Ukraine prepares for what is said to be the spring offensive against Russia, a debate has sprung up about the Europe's contribution to the war is not getting due recognition as compared to that of the United States. The debate is based on the age-old maxim that the quality manpower, in this case, the soldiers' quality and competence, is as important as quality weapons in fighting a war.
Accordingly, the point is being made that while the United States may have contributed more than half of the $160 billion in economic, humanitarian, and military aid that Ukraine has received since the outbreak of the war, Europe's contribution is not as insignificant as has been perceived by many. If Ukraine has defied the Russian might so far, it is also the quality and training of Ukrainian forces, a vital factor for which European powers in general and the United Kingdom in particular have played a significant role. The importance of training Ukrainian soldiers has many dimensions, but there are three that are particularly noteworthy.
First, more than 120,000 professional and well-trained soldiers, junior officers, and non-commissioned officers of Ukraine have died or been wounded reportedly in the war over the last year. That an equal or more number of Russian soldiers have also died or been wounded, believed to be nearly 200,000, is not the point here. Apart from being a continent-sized country, Russia has more manpower than Ukraine to send soldiers to the battlefield, so Ukraine needs replacements badly.
Fortunately, more and more citizens of the country have been mobilized or are prepared to do the soldier's duty, but for these, they require skills and expertise in how to shoot, move, communicate, and provide combat medicine, and they have to learn these skills in a very short period of time. Secondly, and this is a corollary of the above points, the challenge Ukraine faces is that despite an influx of Western equipment, its force is traditionally oriented to fight the Russian way or style and with mostly Russian Soviet weapons.
Another Western style that Ukrainians did not know much about but now seem to have practiced well is the irregular warfare tactics they absorbed from Western advisors. In fact, these tactics that they learned helped them stop Russian forces on the road to Kyiv and halt Russia's offensive in the eastern part of the country. The point is that Ukrainian soldiers need special training to integrate the Western style with their traditional mode, and that's too rapidly. And here there is an additional challenge. That is to fit the newly trained recruits into existing company and battalion-sized units to which they are assigned.
Thirdly, Ukrainian soldiers are now getting and relying on military equipment from a variety of Western nations to replenish the country's existing stockpiles. Obviously, they need to know how to run these systems. It is said that though some Western weapon systems, such as the Javelin and the NLAW anti-tank missiles, have been easy to integrate into Ukrainian operations because they are easy to use. Many other kinds of non-Soviet weapons and equipment, including artillery, air defense system, and the German Leopard 2 and the British Challenger 2 tanks, are new to Ukrainian soldiers and require advanced training to master.
Based on field studies, these two scholars say that since Russia's invasion and without any U.S. involvement, European countries have been hosting and providing all basic combat training for new Ukrainian recruits, converting civilians into capable soldiers in a 5-week training course. Additionally, many European countries are providing specialized training in weaponry, such as Leopard tank and air defense system, and are currently supplying about half the more advanced training needed for larger Ukrainian formation to learn and master maneuver warfare, something that Amazonia could learn from.
All right, and coming up right after the break will be the editorial. Please stay with us.
In our editorial of today, taking further look into external self-determination through referendum, the case of Ambazonia by Marcus F. Abendong. Psychoanalysis of the protagonist. Before we get into the depths of this reflection, it is important that one understands the mindset of the adversary, the colonial totalitarian regime in Yaoundé. Yaoundé's forte is information management and, more precisely, information economy, misinformation, disinformation, and manipulation. The less citizens know, the more the regime is able to survive. This explains the long and interminable periods of presidential silence and the refusal of state officials to address issues of public concern. Nobody will hold them accountable for what they did not commit themselves to. When one understands this logic, then one should be wary of sudden leakages of what is supposed to be sensitive information from the regime. Regimes like this decide what they send out. The writer was not impressed when recently otherwise sensitive information was leaked out to the public about Yaoundé's supposed acknowledgement of its inability to win the armed conflict in the southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. It did not take the writer too long to conclude that the said message in the mind of the leakers was intended to mislead Ambazonians. We already know that Yaoundé cannot win this conflict, and Yaoundé knows that we know this. Who benefits from this acknowledgement then? The answer to this question is found in the additional leak. If Yaoundé cannot win, what is it doing to solve the conflict off the battlefield? The leaker let it be known that Yaoundé was working hard at solving the problem off the battlefield. Does any Amazonian doubt what the regime is up to in this regard? How can the same Yaoundé that is multiplying barracks on the territory acknowledge defeat? We know that Yaoundé is working hard to buy off Ambazonia's military commanders on the ground and corrupting and misleading gullible leaders in the diaspora. The result of this hard work is palpable at home and abroad for all to see. Several commanders have been deceived to think they can take over the struggle supposedly because they are the ones fighting and dying. Many pseudo-leaders in the diaspora have fallen cheaply to their egos, deceived to believe that they are the only persons with the competence to free their homeland. Their academic credentials and charisma are often quoted to them, only until they fall into these political booby traps and find out how empty they are do they come to the true knowledge of themselves. Well, for most of them, pride will not allow them to concede, acknowledge their wrongs, and return to the fold. Unfortunately, the writer has seen how Amazonian social media spaces are awash with posts celebrating Yaoundé's capitulation. Far from it. Yaoundé, in their logic, hopes that a few commanders still fighting on the territory upon getting these fake information leaks will join the others supposedly to give Yaoundé time to finalize preparations for negotiations. In the meantime, the regime is increasing her troops' presence on the territory, multiplying barracks and hemming in gullible Amazonian fighters. How can anybody see this and believe that Yaoundé is contemplating anything but war? Yaoundé knows that she cannot win this war, but she is not ready to concede defeat. It hopes that the Amazonian people will get exhausted and abandon the cause. Ambazonia will take her freedom by force and not by cowardly retreat in the hope of an unannounced other option to solve the problem. Many of the Canada band are surreptitiously telling fighters that it is now time for the pen and not guns. That is Yaoundé at work. Those who know its methods are forewarned. For further illustration, consider the following. 1. La République du Cameroon did not subscribe to the Swiss-led process because it wanted to negotiate. We all are witnesses of this. She subscribed to the talks to wait off international pressure and play for time. More so, Yaoundé joined the Swiss talks so that it could use it to play down war drafts by the Ambazonian diaspora. Its hired agents were seen on social media dissuading people from drafting because a table has been set for a mediated settlement. 2. When Yaoundé pulled out of the Swiss mediation process, she immediately initiated another to ward off international pressure. More so, she thought she had succeeded in bringing together Amazonian leaders she could mold and fashion according to her design. Now that Yaoundé has successfully pushed the negotiation option off the table, the struggle should consider other options. Having gone in and out of Yaoundé's psyche, let us now tackle the issue of the day: referendum or plebiscite or none. Available tools to the United Nations, it is always important to bear in mind how the Southern Cameroons fell into such an unfortunate past, that the present problem is the outcome of the United Nations' incomplete or mishandling of the territory decolonization process. Cognizant of this, it makes absolute sense to suppose that the United Nations, an organization run by a binding charter, covenants, and treaties, would, on its own volition, right the wrong it committed. If the UN had, we would not be here today debating which tool is appropriate and which is not. Since we are here already, we may as well look into the subject in depth. The various binding instruments of law at the disposal of the United Nations aside, there are various options and active tools the international community can use to decide the future of the people of the Southern Cameroons. The first, not in order of merit, is for the matter to be raised on the floor of the United Nations General Assembly. This can only be done by a United Nations member nation, one sympathetic enough to the plight of the Southern Cameroons. That this has not happened is the long years of lobbying and advocacy is indicative of the world's insensitivity to the plight of mankind. It appears that the civilized world pays more attention to animal rights than to the well-being of the oppressed and subjugated human races of the world. The second option is for the Southern Cameroon's quest to be decided at the International Court of Justice, ICJ. Those who drew up the covenant of this jurisdiction bound its hands. Only member nations of the United Nations and who have ratified the statutes creating the court can bring up matters to it. Until today, in spite of the merits of the Southern Cameroon's matter in international law, no nation has deemed the suffering of the annexed and recolonized people of the UN Trust territory as a crime worthy of attention by the ICJ. If a matter born out of UN institutional neglect cannot be heard at The Hague, which will? We know, however, that the court did sit on the matter between the Southwest Africa People's Organization, the SWAPO, against the apartheid South African regime and granted justice to Sam Nujama's country, today Namibia. It is important to underline that both SWAPO and the Southern Cameroons were UN Trust territories. The third option is for La République du Cameroon to, on its own volition, opt out and leave the territory. This is not about to happen anytime soon, hence the armed conflict. It is even now abundantly clear that Yaoundé does not intend to succumb to international pressure for the two parties to the conflict to sit down for an internationally mediated settlement. So what can the United Nations do at this point? Two options are available from the writer's view: reinvoke and uphold the provision of its charter and the trusteeship agreement, and thereby recognize the Southern Cameroons as a sovereign state, or conduct a referendum. And in the writer's opinion, he will go for the first option, which will immediately put the suffering of the peoples of Ambazonia to an end. Unfortunately, we don't get to choose. The international community does not walk on straight lines. The oppressed grab the first opportunity and act on it. The precedent is the referendum, not plebiscite, is usually used to decide external self-determination causes. This has been the case with Quebec, Scotland, Eritrea, and East Timor. From the study of the writer, these four cases, he can claim that no two referendums are identical. Certain considerations come into play to determine how the exercise is carried out in each case. Foremost among these considerations is the democratic culture. In the cases of Quebec and Scotland, the people themselves have been allowed to conduct their referendums with oversight from the center only. The democratic culture in these countries and territories is very high. Even then, measures are put in place to guard against the central government having their way through unfair means. All systems are run by human beings after all. It can be argued that these examples are Western and that neither Quebec nor Scotland were UN Trust territories, that the first is a conquered territory and the second willingly signed a treaty to form a stronger kingdom/state with England and Wales. That is why this reflection will dwell more on the Eritrean and East Timorese referendum processes and conduct. On Monday, we'll continue this extensive article with a look at the Eritrean independence referendum. But for now, we've come to the end of our editorial of tonight. If you want more of such interesting articles, kindly visit our website at www.abcambertv.com for more. Subscribe, become a club member, and a part of this winning strategy. Find out payment details on your screen. I am Star Smart reporting for Undaunted ABC Amba TV.
We the people, ABC Amba TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories, Africa's best.
All right, and in sports, well, Gab Ellison has more to tell us about the Brentford striker who got suspended for 8 months over betting.
Latest world sports. Football. Ivan Toney banned. Brentford striker Ivan Toney has been banned from football for 8 months after he accepted breaking Football Association betting rules. Toney has also been charged £50,000 and warned about his future conduct for 232 breaches of the FA's betting rules. His suspension starts immediately, but the 27-year-old can return to training with Brentford 4 months before it ends on 17 September. He will not be allowed to play again until 17 January 2024. Posting on his Instagram story, Toney said he was naturally disappointed at the verdict and would make no further comment until the Independent Regulatory Commission publishes its written reasons. I make no further comment at this point other than to thank my family and friends, Brentford FC, and our fans for their continued support through what has been a very difficult time. I now focus on returning to play the game I love next season. In a statement, the FA said, his sanctions were subsequently imposed by an independent regulatory commission following a personal hearing. The Independent Regulatory Commission's written reasons for these sanctions will be published in due course, and the FA will wait to review them before commenting further. The breaches Toney has been found guilty of took place between 25th February 2017 and 23rd January 2021. During which time Toney represented Scunthorpe United, Wigan Athletic, Peterborough United, and Brentford. Toney has scored 20 goals in 33 Premier League appearances this season, helping Brentford into 9th place in the table. He will miss Brentford's trip to Tottenham on Saturday and the final day of the season at home to league leaders Manchester City on 28 May. Brentford say they note the FA's decision and are awaiting the publication of the written reasons before considering our next steps. Toney won his first England cap as a late substitute in the 2-0 Euro 2024 qualifying win over Ukraine in March, having received his first call-up to Gareth Southgate's squad last September. England defender Kieran Trippier was banned for 10 weeks by the FA in December 2020 for giving out information for others to bet on his transfer from Tottenham to Atletico Madrid. In 2017, Joey Barton, then a Burnley player, was banned for 18 months, reduced to 13 on appeal after admitting placing 1,260 football-related bets over a 10-year period. Logo for 2026 FIFA World Cup unveiled. Fans mock its simplistic design. The 2026 FIFA World Cup is 3 years away, but Gianni Infantino, president of the sports governing body, unveiled the logo for the event on Wednesday, and fans are mocking it for its simplistic design. Infantino, 53, proudly displayed the logo at a ceremony that featured celebrities from around the world. who enjoyed several performances put on by recording artists. Ronaldo Nazario da Lima walked out with World Cup in his hands and unveiled the logo alongside Infantino. Romy Guy, FIFA's chief business officer, explained why they chose such a simple design. The official brand introduces fans to the tournament's new emblem, typeface, and striking color palette. Three exciting elements that will bring this tournament to life in the coming months and years, said Guy. But it also goes beyond that as we open countless opportunities to local communities and our partners to integrate their own story. He went on to state that the simple design will allow them to implement it in several ways with visual team. A local football fan, a global superstar, or a famous location, the brand will spotlight distinctive aspects and highlight the inclusive and diverse aspect of the first FIFA World Cup featuring 48 teams, said Guy. It was also confirmed that the final of the 2026 FIFA World Cup, dubbed UNDAUNTED 2026, will be played Sunday, July 19th. May 25th, 2026 is the deadline for teams to release the list of players who will form part of their squad in the World Cup. Basketball. NBA playoffs. Miami Heat beat Boston Celtics as Jimmy Butler shines again in series opener. Jimmy Butler shared the credit with his teammates after leading the Miami Heat to another win in the NBA playoffs. The 33-year-old has tended to overperform in the postseason, earning himself the nickname Playoff Jimmy. And Butler gained shone as the Heat won 123-116 at the Boston Celtics in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. I'm playing at an incredible level because they are allowing me to do so and not putting a limit on my game, said Butler, who scored 35 points. They are trusting me with the ball and on the defensive end, and I think that's what any basketball player wants. What anyone wants in life is to be wanted, to be appreciated, and just let you go out there and rock. Butler also finished with 7 assists, 6 steals, and 5 rebounds for Miami, who have become the first side seeded 8 to reach the conference finals since 1999. The Heat trailed Boston, the second seed, by 13 points late in the second quarter and 66-57 at halftime, but they outscored the hosts 46-25 in the third quarter to take a 12-point advantage. Bam Adebayo adding 20 points. Jason Tatum had 30 points and 7 rebounds for the Celtics, while Jaylen Brown added 22 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists. Game 2 of the best-of-7 series is on Friday in Boston. Gab Ellison reporting for Undaunted, ABC Amba News.
All right, thank you so much, Gab Ellison, for that report. And with that sports report, we've come to the end of Undaunted tonight. But before we go, let's take a look at our major highlights.
On Undaunted tonight, we brought to you Ambazonian fighters that were deprived 3 La Republic du Cameroon soldiers of a National Day celebration. And also we brought to you in full the fake 20th May celebrations noticed, and also that La Republic denies its workers' salaries.
All right, tonight on Undaunted, we told you that La Republic du Cameroon lied about 16 Ambazonian fighters and 2 generals that they surrendered. La Republic du Cameroon's inability to handle the Ambazonian War of Independence was also a story we told today. Also, ARF's Fire for Fire power neutralizes 3 colonial La Republic du Cameroon's forces in Kumba local government era. And in sports, we told you that Brentford strikers suspended for 8 months over betting. And that was it for tonight on Undaunted, bringing to the news untold stories. On behalf of my co-anchor Stersmart and the entire Undaunted crew, we say thank you for tuning in.
We'll leave you with ABC Amba TV images. Good night and God bless you.